Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Actually Homeschooled. I'm your host, Milena, and I'm a little bit nervous. So let's just get into it.
Actually,
Alright, so this is my first ever podcast. First ever episode, filming and recording and doing the whole shablam solo. I was gonna do it with my older sister, Renata, but she decided that it was, too much and too personal, and I totally get that. Being the middle child, I want everybody to know everything about me, kind of. But to each his own. I fully understand, wanting privacy, and I got a baby now, so I super extra understand wanting privacy. So it's all good. It's all gooch. But welcome to the first ever episode of Actually Homeschooled. Like I said, my name's Milena, pronounced Milena, not Melina, not Milana, not some people just straight up call me Melanie. None of those. It's Milena. And I just decided, with my sister, like I said, we decided that we were going to do a podcast about how we were actually homeschooled our whole lives. We were actually unschooled, child-led, learned, homeschooled type of thing. There's a bunch of different types of homeschooling you can do. There's homeschooling with charter schools, which is kind of like, it can either be 5 days a week of schooling or maybe like 3 days a week, but it is definitely more intensive, similar-ish to school. Then there's like unschooled homeschooling, where you're kind of just doing stuff by yourself, in the comfort of your own home with your parents or whoever your teacher is going to be. And then there is child-led learning homeschooled, which is what my mom did with me and my sisters. We all had the option to go to school. My older sister really wanted to go to school, went to school when she was like in first grade, I think. I guess she tried to make friends with the girls there, and they said that the water fountain had to tell them if they could be friends with her. And then she tried to eat grapes in class, and the teacher said you're not allowed to eat grapes until lunchtime. So she ended up not wanting to go back. And then I came along and had no desire to go to school ever. And then my little sister came along, and she still wants to go to school. She's like, please, can I go to high school, please? But I just bit my tongue. Ow. But she's kind of calmed down on that because of all the, stuff going on in schools right now. And she's a full-blown cowgirl. So she's been busy doing barrel racing and horse riding and all sorts of things. And yeah. So I'm just on here doing my thing. Had a baby. So now I'm home more. And I've been wanting to do something like this for a while. And I think it would be a super cool way for me to share about how I was homeschooled and just talk about whatever's on my mind and try to be funny and just, have you guys listen to me, because everybody else is doing a podcast. So I figured, why not hop on that train, but like actually be good at it. Just kidding. Everybody's doing great. So yeah, so we were child-led learning type of homeschool. That was the type of homeschooling we had. And that included workbooks that my mom would get us, and classes she would take us to, and things she would sign us up for, and workshops, and all sorts of different things. We used to do swim team and dance classes and science classes. We did a leatherworking class, which was super fun. We've done so much stuff. We used to go to park days all the time. There were multiple park days a week. Now I have my own child, and so I kind of need to start dipping my toe back into the world of park days and seeing who's out there and getting friends together. Because I was thinking before I had my baby, I was like, how the heck is she gonna make friends? Like, that's a question that I get asked. But then I was thinking about it like about my own kid. I was like, how is she gonna make friends? And that's on me to take her to the places where she can make friends, because that's what my mom did for us. We would go to park days and And that's, primarily where we made a lot of friends. But it's funny because I am not friends with one of those people today. I am not friends with one of them. I remember going to Monday Park Day and being in the little kids group because my older sister would hang out with the teenagers and all the older kids, and I was still younger, so I would hang out with the little kids. And at Monday Park Day, there was a pond, stream, man-made thing running right through the park. So the boys would jump in the pond thing and catch crawdads because there were crawdads in the water, and so they would catch them. True story. And the big kids would hang out way up on the hill. There was, on the other side of the park, there was this like super big hill. And so they would walk up the side of the hill, and on the top of the hill, there was a table under these big, huge trees. Thank you, computer. And they would all hang out up there, and sometimes they would bring Pokemon cards. That was usually the thing. They weren't really a Magic card game group, but they definitely liked Pokemon. So they would play Pokemon, and then some people would bring their DSs. Shout out DS if any of you guys remember those. I don't know. Are they still making DS? Or did they stop doing that? Because I have a DS, but it's my mom's. But she didn't want it because she doesn't play video games. And so she gave it to me. / I stole it from her, and she was okay with it because she didn't notice. And I still have it. So the kids would hang out all down in the water or up on the hill. And whenever the little kids would try to hang out with the big kids would get annoyed and tell the little kids that they're not allowed to hang out, even though those rules were made up by the big kids. So technically there weren't really rules, but big kid rules over little kid rules. So, and my older sister would hang out with them, and I would always try to hang out with her, and she would always call me lame and tell me to go away with love. And, then I guess I kind of did the same thing with my little sister. Maybe. I hope not, but maybe. And if I did, I love you. And that's just the way it goes. And I'm sure that when my fiance and I have our second kid, that'll probably happen a little bit with the two of them. So, yeah. But I got a fiance. Shout out fiance. To those who are just listening, I am showing my ring to the camera. It's gorgeous. He picked it out at an antique shop he went, and the friend that he went with told him, don't you think, hey bro, don't you think that she'll want like a different kind of ring? Because he's Romanian, so he kind of talks like that. Super nice guy, but he kind of talks like that. And so he goes, hey bro, don't you think that she'll want like more of a, I don't know, princess cut or whatever? And my fiance, he knew that is not my jam. I barely showed him anything. He asked me one time what kind of engagement ring I would want, and I looked up and found one picture and showed him, and that was like months before he proposed. So, good memory on him, and pretty slick. He stole one of my rings when he went to go get the ring sized so that it would be the right size. How smart is that? He's so smart. His name's Alex. And I love him. I love him dearly. And so we're engaged to get married. We're gonna get married this year. We're very excited about it. And that's a little bit about me. About my homeschooling, going back to that. So my mom would have us go to classes, and some days it would be like wake up. We'd have Earth Roots Field School is what it was called, in field school. So we would go out into nature, usually Laguna Beach area, but kind of all over, and I was a kid, so it felt like hours, in nature, but it was probably only like 4 hours maybe, because we'd leave the house, we'd have to leave at like 6, and then we'd get there by like 7, I think, or maybe we left at 7. When you're a kid and like you have to wake up early, but it's only like 8 o'clock and it feels like it's so early, So I don't really know if it was that early, but I think we had to wake up at 6. I'm pretty sure. So we would wake up, go to the class. Going to those classes was super fun because usually my mom would throw in like a really cool snack thing. We didn't really get like, crappy snacks, you know, like Doritos and stuff. She used to always get healthy things from Trader Joe's or wherever. And so on days we would go to that class, she would usually pack us some sort of like special, not super healthy snack thing. And I remember, because I'm still a little fat kid. I wasn't fat, but you know, that was like my favorite part, was getting the cool, fun, not healthy snacks. It was super fun. So we would go to the class in the morning, and then we'd go to a park day after, or we would just go home, or we would go to the pool, or, you know, we would do stuff like that. And then when we got old enough for my mom to go and do stuff and leave us at home because she didn't feel like waking us up, or she would try to wake us up and we'd stay asleep, that was me. She would write us a list of things we had to get done before she got home. Now, kids nowadays, I don't think get this fear. And I say fear in the most loving way because I feel like it not groomed me, because F that word, but I feel like it helped me be able to get stuff done now as an adult. There was such a fear if we didn't get something done on the list. Not because my mom would come home and like hit us or anything, but just the wrath of, why wouldn't you just do your work and get it done? And she would leave us like, we would have to do like laundry, empty the trashes in the house, do like 5 pages of schoolwork, and do like 1 online class. And usually the online classes were like, you know, it was like a series. So it was like maybe an hour. Super not even that much stuff. And for me, I played piano, so it was practice piano for 30 minutes or practice piano for an hour or whatever it was. But that one was always fun for me, so I didn't care about doing that one. But even sometimes I wouldn't get it done. So, you know, my sister and I got older, and when we wouldn't do like the laundry, like we would hang up laundry on the line. Shout out to those who like to keep their clothes for a while. You know, you hang your laundry up to dry. Not all of it, but just the nice stuff, you know? So when we wouldn't take the laundry off of the line, the fear of my mom calling us, because we used to have a landline, so she would call us on our way home and say, I'm coming home, and she'd be there in like 10 minutes. The fear that would wash over us, or at least me, when she said that and we hadn't gotten a thing done just because we were being lazy and sitting around doing nothing instead of doing the list and then sitting around doing nothing, was horrible. And I remember multiple times my older sister and I running around the house trying to finish up the stuff we should have done like hours ago, and then getting it sort of done, and then my mom getting home and then realizing we didn't do it, and then she would, you know, she would tell us, she was like, I give you guys so much freedom, and I just write you this list to help you, you know, stay accountable on things that you have to do, and you don't even get that done. And I remember feeling so bummed out when I would do that. Like when I disappoint her, I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You know, middle child guilt. But I think that was a fabulous way of raising us, because, like I said, now, like when I have a list of stuff to do, which like a list in my head, my older sister writes stuff down. I write a list in my head. When I have a list of stuff to do, I get it done. Like when I need to, because why wouldn't I? You know, like why sit there and not do the stuff you need to do, you're supposed to do, and wait all day and sit on it all day and procrastinate all day, and just get it done. Just get it done, because then once it's done, you're done, you know? So that was a pretty cool lesson. I feel like that's not necessarily something you learn in school, but again, I didn't go to school, so I don't know. I just feel like, you know, with homeschool, like our best friend, he was schooled. He went to school. My fiance is getting home, so if you hear the door opening, that is him. Our next door neighbor, who we were best friends with, he was a school kid. So he would go to school all day, and then whenever we'd get home and he'd get home, we'd always be like, can we go play with him? Or sometimes we'd just go over and play with him. And he, you know, would always have homework. So his mom would be like, all right, time for them to go so you can get your homework done. But she was a super cool, artsy, you know, kind of like artsy, cool mom, you know, so she wouldn't really like tell us to leave. Sometimes she'd let us stay for dinner, and then she'd tell us to go home. We literally lived right next door, and we had like a little connecting pathway from our houses. So it was our house, their driveway, and then their house. Like, duh. And there was a pathway connecting our house to their driveway. So you walk out our door, and then there's a pathway, and then their driveway, and then their front door. So we would like run over there, and if we had to go home late, they would walk us home, which was really, really sweet. And then, the older we got, they didn't have to do that because we were 2 seconds away. But I just remember he used to always have homework and hated doing his homework. And that was always, a big thing that my schooled friends would have. Like, that was always an issue that they would have. They would always be, needing to do their homework, needing to get their projects done, needing to do blah, blah, blah for Miss blah, 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 And that was never really something that we had to do. I remember the one thing that I had like assignments for that I enjoyed was a creative writing class. I had a creative writing class that I really, really enjoyed. And somewhere I have the stories that I wrote in that class. And I remember one of them, it was an assignment. It was like the first week's assignment. And we had to write a story. And there was parameters. It has to be this long and it has to have this kind of subject or something like that. And I wrote a story about a dragon who had scales made of different kinds of sweets. So like he had some scales were made of cotton candy, and some were made of chocolate, and some were made of vanilla, which isn't really a candy, but I mean, it's a flavor. And it's a flavor of some candy. So it kind of works. And you could pluck off his scales and eat them. I'm trying not to say my P's too hard because I don't want to spike the mic. But you could pluck off his scales and eat them, and it wouldn't hurt him, and they would just regenerate, and he was a dragon, and he had scales that you could eat because they were made out of candy. Yep. And it was just cool. I mean, it was cool having classes like that where there wasn't like harsh, oh, you get an F for not finishing your stuff, like there wasn't like you wouldn't get in trouble, or what's the word I'm looking for? You wouldn't get in trouble or for not doing your thing. I don't know what that word is, but I'm going to remember it like 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to be really fun. I'm going to be like, damn, that's the word I was looking for. Still can't think of it. So anyways, moving on. So yeah, so we had classes like that. And then we also had physical classes because, in school there's PE, which I feel like for the longest time I didn't really know what PE stands for or stood for. And then when I was like 12, I was like, oh, it stands for phys ed. What does that mean? Oh, physical education. Duh. Homeschooled. And we would do homeschooled versions of that. They have homeschool versions of that. And there's also plenty of things that count as physical education, that you can do as a non-schooled person. So there was this one guy who ended up being kind of super creepy. He never did anything to me or my sister or the kids that we knew, and I don't think he did anything to any kids, but he was just kind of like one of those like pervy old white guys, that's like kind of like once you start growing boobs, he kind of gets a little more like, hey guys, I mean girls, it's just kind of like, ooh. Yeah, but he was super nice. Other than that, I love how you have to justify stuff like that. I'm not justifying it, but so we had physical ed classes with him. We did all sorts of sport. We literally did like almost every single sport. We did basketball, softball, baseball, soccer, football, tennis, volleyball, what's that one from Napoleon Dynamite with the string and the ball attached around the pole? Oh, what is that called? Tetherball. We played tetherball, even though that's not technically a sport. We played Gaelic football, which I don't know if any of you know what that is. And I kind of don't really remember either, but it's kind of like soccer, sort of, but also football, like American football, but like soccer mixed, sort of, I think. We played Gaelic football. And then we also this guy would do track and field classes. And so we would run hurdles and throw javelins and throw, the flying disc thing that you do in the Olympics. that you like, spin around in a circle and then fling the disc. Yeah, we did all sorts of stuff. It was pretty cool because, where do you go to learn all that if you don't go to school and have it already there for you? Turns out, fun fact, there are classes and there are places that you can go to have all that stuff taught to you and have a teacher, like, instead of your parents, because sometimes your parents just don't hit it. My parents own their own business, so my dad would be at work 5 days a week, and then he would be home on the weekends. And I remember every once in a while he would stay home. And my neighbors are blasting music now. So anyways, sometimes your parents wouldn't cut it. And so that's why it was cool to have other people teach you things. And my mom never really was about the whole being our teacher, and neither was our dad. So like I said, he would come home and be home like on a weekday, which was like so cool, and then we would just hang out with him. Like, it's not like we would do anything extra, or he would teach us things, but we would do tons of, sometimes our tasks were yard work, like raking the front lawn, and my baby is crying and I'm trying not to get distracted. So baby's fine. But yeah, so we used to have things like raking the leaves in the front yard and, go cut that bush because the dead branches or whatever, or watering the whole house, because my mom has tons and tons of foliage and plants and things all around the house. So that was another thing on our list. And that also, I feel like, contributed to knowing how to keep a house, which is pretty important, especially as a woman. I think it's important to know how to keep a house, do laundry, wash. Obviously everybody knows how to wash dishes, but still, like, doing laundry, we used to do laundry. Like, that was one of our things, is because my mom, one, she didn't want to do it probably and wanted a break, but then also it's super handy for everybody to know how to wash laundry. Like, that's such a common thing that people need to know how to do. And I don't know how many people do or don't know how to wash laundry, but I feel like some people definitely have to learn as an adult how to wash their clothes. And I think that's kind of, a necessity of life, unless you're washing your clothes in the river, which you still then have to learn. Even if you're washing clothes in the river, you then have to learn how to wash your clothes in the river. But all that aside, homeschooling has been pretty awesome. Not has been, it was amazing. And I couldn't have asked for a better upbringing or way to be raised. For me, the way my parents schooled me was perfect. Couldn't have asked for anything better. Loved it. My older sister and I, being the we, used to be on a swim team. Janet Evans Fast over in Fullerton, shout out. And they were really cool. And then the team, not us, but the team went to the Olympics, and I guess they won like 2 gold medals. And so then the new coach who bought the team decided that everybody needed to do mandatory once a week competitions, and then practice in the pool was going to be like 3 hours of swimming plus like an hour of time in the gym, or like dry land working out, that's what they used to call it, hour of dry land, 2 hours in the pool. Or 3 hours in the pool for the people who were like, in the higher levels. And it got to a point where my older sister and I were like, we just don't want to do this anymore. I used to hate the swim competitions, hated them, did not like them at all, just because I didn't like the spotlight and, having a bunch of people watch me. And I didn't like that. So I hated the competitions. But when we were in the pool doing laps and, like, we would go, like, there would be 4 people to a lane, and the first person would go, and then 30 seconds later the second person, and 30 seconds later the third person. And if you were swimming fast, then you would lap the people, and then end up, even if you went like second or third, then you would end up finishing first, which I always loved and would always try to do. I would always try to finish first, but I didn't like doing it in a competition. I don't really understand if that makes sense now that I think about it. Doesn't really make sense, but it's very middle child of me. So yeah, I didn't like it. My older sister didn't like it. It was starting to become too consuming. It was like 6 days a week. It was ridiculous. And at the time, I think I was 11. So like an 11-year-old swimming 6 days a week in the pool for like 2 hours and then an hour on dry land. Like, I get that that's healthy to work out, but like, I was 11, you know? So we quit swim team, and then my mom said we had to find something else to count as PE because we were growing and, needed to get out that energy. And she's like, it's not healthy for you guys to just sit around and go for a walk around the block. That doesn't count as not enough exercise. So you need to find something else. So when I was 12, on my dad's birthday, we went to downtown Disney. He hates surprises, but we semi-surprised him. There was a swing band, a live swing dance band playing in downtown Disney, right by where ESPN Zone used to be, or still is, but I think they changed it, maybe. And we went down there to meet up with my parents' friends, and they had a huge dance floor, and there were tons of people. Like, it was so busy. And I immediately fell in love with it. And, then this one guy asked me to dance, and I was really nervous. And I was like, I don't really know how to do it. I never danced before. And he was like, oh, don't worry, you're cool. And so we danced one song, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. And then I distinctly remember the second person that asked me to dance don't remember what his face looked like, couldn't pick him out of even a lineup. If he was standing in front of me, probably wouldn't even know it was him. But I remember he was wearing a gray 3-piece suit, but he wasn't wearing the jacket. And he had a peach-colored shirt underneath the vest. So his shirt was peach, and then his 3-piece suit was gray. And I remember he had a beard. No idea what he looked like, though. And he asked me to dance, and I thought, ooh, this guy's handsome, and he thinks I'm a big person, but I was only 12. And so he asked me to dance, and it was super fun. And the whole entire rest of the night, I just stood on the edge of the dance floor, because that's what you do when you want to get asked to dance. If you don't feel like asking somebody to dance, you stand on the edge of the dance floor, and people ask you to dance. Nobody else did, but I just stood there watching for like a good 2 hours. I was enthralled by it. So before we went to go leave, I told my mom how much I loved it, and she asked around, and a bunch of people told her about this one dance studio over in Irvine. And my older sister and I started going there the following Tuesday, I think. We called them and asked when they had swing dancing classes, and I'm pretty sure the first day we went was Tuesday. And her and I went, and we took the beginner class, and then they always have a social dance afterwards. So we stayed for the social dance, and it was the same thing, except it wasn't a live band. It was a DJ, but same kind of music, same kind of people. A couple more people asked me to dance that night, so I actually got more of the vibe. And then I remember the next day, my older sister and I woke up and went out onto our front porch and played swing music, and she was like, you do the boy part and I'll do the girl part, and then we'll switch. And we never switched. So I learned how to do the boys part and the girls part at the same time, which is honestly super fun, because in swing dancing, there's switch dancing, where in mid dance you would switch who's the lead, and that was always super cool, and you can get really creative with stuff like that. And then we went the following Friday and stayed out until I think our parents came to pick us up at midnight. They let us stay out because the dancing would go on there, I think, it used to go until 2 a.m. solidly until 2 a.m. And we just kept at it. We kept going, and then we started making friends. And we used to go to 2 or 3 classes every single time we would go, because they would do 3 classes before the social dance, and then they would do the social dance afterwards. And so we used to go to at least 2 classes. My baby's crying again. I think I have to go feed her. But we would go to at least 2 classes and then stay for the dance. And eventually we got friends. And then our parents stopped having to pick us up because they met our friends, and our friends were old enough and they would drive us home, because who lets their 12-year-old go dancing? Homeschooler parents do. It was such a cool place. It was, no alcohol, no drugs, it was very kid friendly, very safe, but it was just dancing, and it was the coolest thing to start as a young woman for me, because it was getting out and dancing with guys and, hanging out with girlfriends and just being somewhere safe and cool and made you feel like a grown-up, And then eventually, after I think about a year, when we were closer with our friends, a year or 2, afterwards on Friday nights, we would go out to dinner. we would either go to IHOP, or I always hated Denny's, so I would try not to go to Denny's. And I hated IHOP too. I prefer Norms out of those three, aka Flags in the Sky, because that's what I called it when I was a baby. We would go to IHOP though, primarily. And sometimes we would go to, there was a little, like Japanese shopping center. And there was a really, really amazing restaurant over there. So sometimes we would go over there because they were open till like 4 a.m. And we would just hang out and eat and then go home. And then Saturday morning we'd sleep in. So that was a really, really cool thing that being a homeschooler, I was able to do and have that be part of my curriculum, because it was people learning skills and, talking to people. And then, in that world, in the world of swing dancing, a lot of those people were homeschooled, but they were homeschooled more in the traditional Christian way of homeschooling, which I don't really know about, but it was definitely more churchy. So a lot of them were church going people, which was cool. That's do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. Swing dancing made me happy, so that's why I would go. That was my church. Swing dancing was my church. And then I remember the first time they started doing swing dancing on Sundays, and then we would go Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And then we would find, from our friends, they would be like, oh, there's this dance event over in LA, and then, oh, there's this dance event over in wherever. And so we would start going to different places and testing out the waters of other places. And a lot of the people that go to one place go to the other place. So we would see a lot of the same people that, we would see at our home base. And then I started trying out salsa dancing because on Wednesdays there was salsa dancing. And prior to the swing dancing, my older sister and I did Zumba for like 2 years. And then we ended up teaching Zumba and having our own Zumba classes and making some money from doing that for ourselves, which was super cool and random for like an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, super cool. But in the Zumba classes, I had learned about bachata dancing, which I always loved. And on Wednesdays, I noticed that they had a salsa class and a bachata class. So I started going on Wednesdays as well, just for a little bit for like the class, and then I'd stay for a couple songs and then I'd leave because I didn't really know anybody and didn't feel like being there by myself. So it just started to become more and more of an obsession. And the older I got, the more places I was able to go. And my parents were so cool because sometimes we would go to places in LA that would be 18 plus or 21 plus, and I wasn't either of those ages. And we would be able to get in because we're cute and we would wear makeup and be dressed up. And obviously we would be with people that were over the age of 21 that were safe and my parents knew, and we would check in via text or call them and let them know where we were. And like, it was always very like, they know where we are, we're safe, we're with people that are safe, we're not doing sketchy things, So that was really cool to have the freedom to do that. And then because of that, when I started doing the salsa classes, I started to fall in love with bachata. But the bachata world is more strictly 18 plus and up, because usually it's in a bar or a club or somewhere like that serves alcohol. So you have to be of that age to be able to go. So I may or may not have had something to help me get into those places that wasn't necessarily truthful. But my parents knew about it, and my mom helped me find it. And it was for dancing. It wasn't for me to buy alcohol or drugs or whatever, even though I might have used it to buy some green. I'm a mom now. I don't use the green anymore, but, when I was a kid, it was fun. I still am a kid, but you know what I mean. But it was for dancing. And so I was like not able to go places that would help with my dance career because of my age, which I was just there to dance. I was always just there to dance. A lot of people in the bachata world are there for other things, but for the most part, you're there to dance. So I got teaching job offers from being able to go to clubs, and I got like so many opportunities. I taught at festivals. I had a consistent teaching job for a while. I grew my own student base. I still have people messaging me to this day, asking when I'm going to start dancing again and when I'm going to start doing classes again. And having a baby just kind of like slows that stuff down. She's still, only 3 months old, so there's that too. And I definitely want to get back into dancing because I miss it very badly. And I'm definitely going dancing this week for sure because I'm going back to the home base to do some swing dancing. And it's an all ages place, so I can bring my baby and I can bring my fiance. And so there's still people that message me because of the opportunities I had from being able to go into those places that were 18 plus or 21 plus, even if I was just, there to dance, which is what I was there to do. And because of being homeschooled, I feel like I was able to carry myself in a way that made people realize that I had more to offer than the typical young person, like I had more of a head on me than the typical young person. Not saying that I'm like smarter than anybody, but I definitely think the upbringing that I had helped me grow into the woman that I am, and also helped me at a younger age figure out how to carry myself and get myself opportunities and start being an entrepreneur and making money for myself by doing things that I love, which is the coolest thing ever. And I suggest everybody should do things that you love to make money. Do what you love to make money. Like, that's the most sound advice I could come up with. TM, do what you love to make money. Maybe not sex, but I guess that's a thing too. So, but that's not my cup of tea. But do what makes you happy, and try to make money at it if you can. The baby's crying, so I'm going to go feed her. I will be right back. I almost shit myself, pardon my French, because I thought that I deleted everything, and then turns out I didn't. A perk of not really knowing GarageBand, which is what I'm using to record the audio, because I heard that makes it better, and it really does. It really does. This microphone is awesome, by the way. I'm thinking once I do a couple of episodes, I might do like some little things that I learned when figuring out how to podcast, because there's some stuff that you need to know before you do it. Like, duh, obviously. But like, I thought it was going to be like, oh yeah, easy peasy, bing bang boom, podcast done. No, not really. You kind of need some stuff. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do that. But anyways, like I was saying, do what you love to make money, and then your work won't seem like work. I mean, there always will be days that seem like work, but for the most part, I don't think if you're doing what you love, it'll seem like work, For instance, my fiance, we, got together, and he was working at this one job, and he had been working there for almost 10 years, and it was just an unhealthy environment. It just became unhealthy. I mean, it was kind of unhealthy always, but, he was working, so whatever. And, he kept on getting fed up with what they were asking of him and the pay and just a bunch of other BS. So I told him, I was like, well, why don't you quit and get a job that'll make you happy and do something that'll be interesting to you? And so he did. And he then went and got his real estate license. He went and passed the real estate exam, studied and passed the real estate exam. I was working at a acupuncture clinic, which was pretty fun. I got to do a lot of managerial type things. And the only downside was I wasn't being paid to do manager work, even though that was pretty much the role that I had at that company. And eventually, got pregnant and told them that I would be needing to leave to have a baby. And that is when my journey ended with that company. But I'm grateful for working there, because prior to that, I was working at a deli, which, being pregnant, it's not like my morning sickness was bad and only lasted for like maybe a couple weeks. But having to work in a deli, and it's an old school Italian deli called Claro's over in Tustin. If I had had to work there while pregnant, one, it's so much standing. I mean, that's pretty much all you're doing, unless you have an injury. They're super cool. Like if you have like a sprained ankle or whatever, but you're still able to come into work, they'll have you in the back in a chair just packing up all the stuff that you can pack up, because we would have fresh items in our open deli. But I worked in the deli making sandwiches and doing cold cuts and cheese and salads and all that. And it would have been so gross working there pregnant. It would have been super gross working there pregnant. So it was very cool. One day I was working and the owner of the acupuncture clinic came in and I was like, oh my gosh, hey, because he's also a family neighbor. And then I guess he talked to my mom and my mom told me about the job. And I was like, that would be perfect. And, you know, I was not pregnant when I first started working with him. No, I wasn't. No, I was not pregnant when I first started working with them. But it was very quickly. It was, I think, 2 months I got pregnant. I started working there and then like 2 months later I got pregnant. Whoopsie. Best whoopsie of my life, but still a whoopsie. Whoopsies can be magical, okay? Whoopsies can be magical. Don't you forget it. And I started working there and it was really cool and, you know, really fun. And I got to do very organizy, OCD type stuff that I love doing. I love doing that kind of stuff and organizing it to the way that I like, which because the company was owned by a man who wasn't really that organized, he kind of just had stuff everywhere and all the computer files and everything and everything that I'm interested in that probably nobody else cares about. So I got to organize all of that and make systems and do all that kind of stuff, which I really genuinely do love doing. It was just I was not getting paid for what I was doing. I wasn't getting compensated for what I was doing. And because of what I was doing, I could see our numbers and I could tell that I wasn't being fairly compensated. And I didn't want to have the conversation with him like at all to tell him I need more money because of what I'm doing. I didn't want to have that conversation because ew, like gross. Who wants to talk about that kind of stuff? Ew. But it wasn't fair. So my mom and my dad and my fiance Alex and my sisters, they were all like, you got to tell him. You got to tell him. It's not fair what he's doing and it's partially on you because you're not telling him that you need more and obviously he's not going to give you more without being prompted. So I eventually got him to give me a 6-month review and then I asked for a raise and then the raise wasn't adequate and then he got really sick and was out of work for a while. He pulled his back out and then that just messes everything else up. So he was out of work for a while. So I was pretty much running the company, scheduling everything, calling all the clients on days that we had scheduled them and they couldn't come in because no one was going to be there. Making sure everything was running smoothly, taking care of all the money, you know, all that stuff. And when he started getting better and getting closer to coming back to work, I told him, I was like, hey, so this is the deal. I need more money because the raise that he had given me for my 6-month review is a 50-cent raise, which I'm grateful for because it was something. However, kind of felt like a slap in the face, you know, like for all the work that I had done and for all the people that told me I was doing such an amazing job and for the other people that worked there saying how much smoother everything is running and just all that kind of stuff, you know, 50 cents just felt a little bit not too nice. So we ended up having another conversation that I also didn't want to have. But once I had it and he came back with his counter, which worked out. And then I, you know, carried on working there for a few months and then had my baby. And I said, I'm going to go have my baby now. And I went and a month later had a beautiful little baby girl. Sorry, I just burped. So, you know, prior to working at other places, I worked with my parents, which sometimes can be really great. My older sister is still working for my parents, but for me, it just wasn't. It was working with my family, so it wasn't like I felt like I was, you know, sometimes I felt like I would just sit there and just take advantage of the fact that they gave me a job and not really do much or want to make money, so I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't have anything to do and just kind of pretend like I was doing stuff. And I ended up having that, you know, telling my parents I feel like I'm stealing from you just by being here because I don't really need to be. And then my mom kind of fired me, so that's also why I had to get a job. So, you know, whatever. It worked out. And I had to get a job for myself and figure it out. And I wanted to move out of my parents' house. So obviously I had to get a job. And I was able to move out at 18, I believe. Moving out young is cool. Realizing now how much money I would have saved just staying there for a couple more years would have been a lot of money. But I found a place that was, affordable and good enough. And then I found a better place that was affordable and better. And for me, I wanted to move out. One of the main reasons I wanted to move out was because, one, dancing was like my life. I would go out between like 6 to 7 nights a week and stay out until whenever. But I would always get up for work. I would never miss work, never be late for work unless something drastic happened. Like one time, my front windshield got smashed. Don't know by who. One time, it was my front windshield and my passenger window that got smashed. And everything in my car got stolen. Almost everything. And then another time, someone smashed the back passenger side window or driver's side window and then stole everything that was left. And then another time my car got towed, and then another time I went to go turn my car on and the battery was just shot. So much BS happened, and that was all at one place. So I kind of felt like maybe somebody was doing the smashing of my windows because it was really close together. And I always had to park my car on the street because there was no room for me to park in the garage. So, yeah. I don't know who did it, but I kind of got the feeling that it was someone, You never know these things. But anyways, I moved out young because I wanted to be able to go dancing, and because I lived at home, I would check in with my parents, and, because they love me, they would stay up to see if I made it home safely or make sure that I was on my way home. And that just wasn't fair because they would end up staying up super late pretty much until I got home. And then they would have to get up super early for work, and then I would get up for work. So it wasn't fair. It was super, super unfair. Super unfair. So that was the main reason I wanted to move out. That was the main reason. The other reason is a little bit, I wanted to see guys. I wanted to be able to be like, hey, I live on my own. I never brought anybody home, but I wanted to be able to have that option. Just because it's cool, I guess. Yeah. So I moved out, was able to do my own thing. And then I got my job at the deli, which is where I met my fiance. He came in one day to get some cookies, and then he lost his phone. For those of you listening, I'm doing air quotes because he lost his phone. Okay. Then because I thought he was super cute, I offered him to call his phone with my phone because he was like, I think I lost it in the store. So I was like, oh, you can call it with my phone. And he was like, okay. So I gave him my phone, and I expected him to dial the phone number and then go, I'm going to go walk around the store to see if I can hear it. That's, because if you call your phone, how are you going to hear it? Thank you, computer. How are you going to hear it if it's on the other side of the deli? You get me? So he goes and calls his phone, and he's just standing there. And I'm like, do you need to go walk around to see if you can hear it? And he was like, oh, yeah. I think I left it at my office or in my car or something. So here you go. And handing me back my phone, which made me go, I'm doing a little Sly Fox face right now. You sneaky. You did that on purpose. So then what I said, oh, well, I guess that was a pretty good way for me to get your phone number. And then he laughed. And then he said to text him sometime. Sorry, so thirsty. So I texted him later on that day and just said, hey, this is the girl from Claro's. I thought I'd send you a text. And I did that on my last break of work. I remember this distinctly because I remembered I didn't want to have to like, well, not that I was going to have to, but I didn't want to be like sitting there like, oh my God, he's going to come back. So I texted him on my last break at work, which was like 2 hours before clock out, leave, go home. When I went to go leave and go home, I waited to look at my phone. So like, we had our little uniform, so we'd take off our clothes and not clothes, but like take off our little uniform overshirt thing and close up all the stuff and put everything away. And then everybody would hang out while the manager locked up. And then I looked at my phone. So after all the things, I waited the longest to look at my phone. And then I get in my car and I look at my phone and he had texted me back. And the coolest thing was 4 days before I met him. And this just goes to show the power of saying what you need out loud, saying what you want, manifesting. Words are power. 4 days before, I had done a ceremonial paper burning where me and a group of people, we all wrote down things that we felt like we had lost in the past year, because it was 2021, January 2021. So not this past January, but the year before. So 2021, January. And so we were all writing down things that we had lost and that things that we wanted to gain, because of all the BS going on. And I had wrote down, because I had just broken up with my first real official boyfriend, I had wrote down that I wanted to be able to let go of that relationship and move on and find real healthy love. Said it out loud, cried a little bit. A couple other people cried. Some other people shared their things. Some people want to keep their things private. And then we all we did, like a fire with, I think we did like some sort of special wood, and maybe we did sage. And then we all threw our papers in the fire. And it was so cool. And then literally the following Tuesday, he came into work and texted me back. And I remember this timeline. I don't know why I remember this timeline so well, but I just remember specifically it was a Friday, and then it was Tuesday. And then he said, when he texted me, he was like, well, let me know what days you're available. So I told him, I was like, I'm available either Thursday or Saturday or something like that. And he goes, okay, cool. How about Thursday at 7? I can come and pick you up. And I was like, what? He wants to come and pick me up? Because nowadays I feel like a lot of people are like, if he wants to come and pick you up, he's a murderer. But I didn't get the murder vibe from Alex. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's super cool. So I was like, yeah, that's great. He didn't even ask me where, like, do you want to go to so-and-so or do you want to go this? No, he said it was a date. He said he wanted to pick me up. He set the date and time, and then he came and picked me up. It was like, oh my God, it was magical. It was so cool. Then he came and picked me up, and we went on a date, and now we're engaged, and we have a little baby. And it's pretty awesome. And I feel like everything in my life led me to that moment, And my little sister likes to take credit for my meeting him because she told me to apply for the job at the deli because she loves their sandwiches. So it was kind of selfish. But her selfishness got me a fiance and a babe that I love so much. That are the two best people in my whole life, aside from my family. But they're my family. I mean, they're all my family. But we're a family now. So, just thoughts about love. And these are the kind of things I'll be talking about because I've got things to talk about, and hopefully I get an audience that's interested in hearing the things that I am talking about. I hope you like it. If you're watching, I give a little wink. I don't know why, but if you're watching, you got a little wink. And if you're listening, you're listening. So you get my voice and my time. And we're basically friends now. Yeah. But it is 10 o'clock over on my end, and I still have to go through this and check and see how I did and figure out if I did all right. I think I did okay. I feel like I did okay. I'm giving myself a little pat on the back. I had to scooch my arm up to reach my back. I didn't really. I could have done it. I did it without using my other hand to push my arm. But yeah, I'm going to call it an evening. So thank you so much for listening to the first ever episode. I hope it was interesting. I hope I finished my stories. I think I did a pretty good job of the conclusions. And I will see you next week. I'm thinking weekly. I'm thinking the posting schedule will be weekly. I mean, obviously shit happens and maybe there will be a time where I miss a week, but maybe not, because maybe I'll feel like filming a couple in one day. Maybe I'll do that. And then you'll have one for the week that I'm not even here because I already filmed it. So, yep. All right. Signing out. Actually Homeschooled, over and out, y'all.